Take a look back and forward. Extra, extra, hear all about it.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast where you decide, you'll decide which one of us is the one that likes to suck nuts off.
I fucking hate you.
I guess you don't have to guess now.
God damn it, Dean. You told me you're gonna do it, and I knew you were gonna do it, but I still fucking hate you.
What is that?
So, he had these salt and vinegar almonds, and he was munching on them, and I tried one, and I don't just eat almonds that got something on them, I, suck the coating off. And he started biting into the almonds, I was like, see, I can't just chew into them like that, I gotta suck them off first, and I realized what I said after I said it. And then he decided he was gonna put that as the intro, me sucking nuts. I'm like, God damn it.
That's funny.
Well, it wasn't. It was either going to be that one or something else. I forget what the other one was.
The other one was about how I tricked you into sitting in a dead dog bloody diarrhea.
Oh yeah.
Which actually didn't exist on the seat. It was covered up, but
yeah. But I didn't know that when he told me that, because he went on this whole story on the whole car ride to work. And then when we show up, he goes at least I'm not the one sitting in dead dog diarrhea seat. I'm like, are you, Dean? I swear to God,
oh my God,
dead dog diarrhea on me. And I looked, there was nothing there, but he thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have fun.
We do have fun.
Mostly making me freak out or talking shit about me, but it's okay.
And I will say, just throw it out there. It was I make jokes as part of my coping mechanism, and it was a family dog that passed.
I'm sorry to hear it.
Yep. December 26th. Literally the day after Christmas.
Well, that wasn't on Christmas, right?
Well, we took her to the emergency vet, or him on.
Alright, so it kind of counts as Christmas. Alright,
Yeah.
That sucks. I tell you.
Yeah, so that's just my way of coping, is to make jokes like that. So I apologize to any viewer that might get upset by that. That's just the way I cope. But on a much happier note, today we are going to look back on the year of this podcast. We are also going to be looking ahead to our goals for this podcast, and even beyond the podcast, what our goals are. I should note, we got off on that tangent. I'm the Dean of Games, the Dean Slater on all platforms, and obviously with me is twitch.tv/LMJ the Hitman Landen, and Twitch's Graveyard Gavin. And this is Extra Extra, your weekly gaming news podcast covering the news leading up to, I didn't actually look this up, January 1st, 2023. That's going to be weird to say.
A whole new year, 2023. Gross.
A whole new year.
That's the song.
And if you like us, you can go to patreon.com/thebriefing-room. Let's get to some news. Well, in this case, the news is us. So me and Landen had been talking about doing this podcast since, what was it, 2019?
Late 2019, all through 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was the news was gearing up for the new consoles. All the everything was rumors of what are the new consoles going to be. I remember a lot of jokes about it being the Xbox 2. But yeah, no, we were talking about doing it because we had both found out that we both wanted to do a podcast, and we both are super into gaming, and we both listen to gaming news podcasts. So we're like, let's just do that. That's something we both know. But we first of all had to figure out what the format was gonna be. We had to. We decided it'd be best if there was at least 3, ideally more, so we could have like a rotation. Not everyone, had to be on, so that way no one got burnt out or whatever.
Right.
And so then it was matter of finding another member and so forth. So we finally started it. January, I don't remember the day we recorded, but the episode was set to come out January 15th. I was learning how to edit a podcast, so it didn't quite come out January 15th. But that's when it was supposed to come out. And yeah, as someone would say, the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question to you is, how do you feel about this past year of the podcast, and what are some of your favorite moments?
The past year, I feel like we've had some pretty good episodes and some funny, memorable moments, and definitely feel like I have memories of beating Gavin in more games than not, but I might be wrong about that.
Boy, I'm too broke to be into new games.
Let's see. What was the last part you want me to do? Because I got a lot to reflect on.
Just memories and so forth. It's just a reflection episode and a look forward episode. So
also this last year of video games have been pretty damn good, kind of crazy ups and downs, and started off really strong. I'm hoping next year's the same as the early this year, because started in January, we started getting indies and AAAs right from the get-go. We saw a lot of things that were delayed from COVID in 2020 finally start to release this year, and I think also because of that, we got to see a lot more polish in some games than we normally do. And the indie scene blew up this year, and I really diving further and further into the indie scene, and really starting to like some of my favorite games. I'm starting to like to be indies.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see next year, because all these delays are still going to be affecting us in 2023 as well. We're going to see a lot more, even more polished games, and 2020 brought us Cyberpunk, and because not only COVID, but the games are kind of scared to release unpolished games now, which is a good thing. Thank you, Cyberpunk. I appreciate that. But hopefully we'll get some really good polished stuff next year, man. I'm really, really excited to see what everybody's got to bring. Here's my fingers crossed for Hogwarts. I'm really hoping that's a solid ass game.
Yeah.
Really, really, it's looking good.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this the other day, and I agree with you. A lot of great indies came out. You wouldn't know that based on the Game Awards, where the only indie that won was Stray.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Cult of the Lamb, Tunic. There's so many other phenomenal indie games.
Let's be honest, though. Game Awards are more built towards the AAA scene than they are the indie scene.
It's true. I feel like the indie scene is more of a there for the announcements, not for the awards, other than the indie award. And I feel like there's a way to do a better job at that. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that Jeff listens to the criticisms, and I'm hoping it's not just us that are like, hey, why is it indie and debut indie? Why do they qualify for both?
I do think exclusives should be, nominated, but at the same time, you're talking about games that have blank checks, and these indie studios are pulling off just the absolute crazy, like dealing with what they have and creating such great pieces of work of art with what they have money wise, and then be able to compete against some of these AAA studios. I feel like should give them a little bit more of an up on these awards, because it should be more
especially towards
polished.
Especially towards the later part of the year. Like, indie games at the end of this year compared to the beginning of this year are damn, like, look and feel at least damn near as good, if not better, than a lot of AAA games.
Yeah.
Because some of them just work so smoothly. Because, like, there's this one guy that I watched, and, like, that's all he plays is indie games. And I'm seeing some of these games, I'm like, these things look and just seem so crazy compared to a lot of the AAA that we've gotten lately.
I don't know if it would still qualify as an indie, because they released a really big indie not terribly long ago, and this is their sequel. But have you guys seen how good the new Bendy game looks?
What is it? Bendy? I'll look it up right now.
Bendy and the Eating Machine was the first one. I think the second one is Bendy Dark Revival or something like that. But holy shit, it looks good.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like that is a good looking game there.
It does look good. I haven't heard of this.
Yeah. The first one came out, what was it, 2018, I want to say. But it was in early access for a long time. So like dates are a little confusing when it's a game that's in early access, because does that count as the release, or is it the official release? And the dates in my mind just get so mixed up, because like Grounded officially released this year, but Grounded's been around for like 2 years.
I forgot. Yeah, that game had such like a long-term early access.
Yeah.
You want to talk about long-term early access?
I know what you're going to bring up. 7 days.
Yeah.
What game?
7 days to die.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Still not out of alpha yet. Still not fully released.
I think Fortnite's officially released, but Fortnite was for like 4 years in beta form.
Yeah. But indies were phenomenal this year. And I do look forward to seeing what indie studios do in the future. Got any specific memories of the show, or?
Not a whole lot, because for people who don't know, I'm not part of the original cast.
You're not
came
James?
in. Look, I know we're both edgelords, but no, we're both edgy, but we're not the same person. But no, I came in way late on the podcast. So I don't even think I've been on here not even 6 months, right?
It's fairly close to 6 months. I'd have to actually look.
Yeah, but I'd say probably my most memorable, moment from the podcast so far would probably have to be the "I am not a fish" conversation.
That was great. That was a great conversation.
That was a good conversation. You'll spend the Lord daily.
I think I posted it. If I haven't, I'll post that again, because that was a great. I did actually like make a TikTok length thing that's in the 16:9. So like I have a TikTok ready if I haven't posted it already. But
either that, or when you promised all of our listeners that I would buy them a pizza, because Elijah will still remind me of that.
We can't say his name. He already said if we say his name on the podcast, he'll call his lawyer and get royalties.
I don't even think his lawyer knows who he is half the time.
That's funny.
Well, then I'll just call him when I call him my phone. Taco Bell tells me all the time that I owe them a pizza.
Yeah. He yeah, I actually
I fully expect you to edit his name as just a bunch of garbled up mess.
so actually it's funny you mentioned that because that was going to be a moment that I brought up too, and I actually told him at work. I was like today I was like, hey, you'll want to listen to Sunday's episode.
Because you knew I was going to bring it up, weren't you?
No, I was going to bring it up.
Yeah, it's like once, maybe twice a month. He's like, "Where's my pizza?" I'm like, "God damn it!"
Gotta get him his pizza. You get him his pizza, and then everybody wants their pizza.
That was not a deal that I made. That was a deal that Dean made that I did not consent to. I'll call my lawyer. God damn it.
The legal team is getting involved.
Everybody's calling their lawyer. But yeah, so out of all the moments, I think those two probably stand out the most because they're the ones I'm reminded of the most. I still use the fish one to this day. Like, I think it was a few weeks ago. One of our coworkers, who is the girlfriend of another one of our coworkers, I'm trying not to use names right now.
Yeah.
She had the hiccups, and I just yelled out, "Just say you're not a fish!" And she just fucking stared from down the aisle, like, "What the fuck did you just say to me?"
Wow.
Yeah, it's I unfortunately so I have reflux, and so one of the signs that I'm having issues is I start hiccuping. That it does not work for reflux, unfortunately.
Oh.
But then again, those hiccups are more, hey, if you don't get some, liquid down your throat, you're about to throw up. So.
If you don't get some liquid down your throat, boy.
That's actually, we were working today in an area, and I was eating some of those nuts that we discussed earlier, and I started having a reflux episode, and the only source of liquid nearby was a hand washing sink in a fresh area. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm drinking hand wash sink water.
Wow.
But yeah, I was going to bring that moment up too. That was a great moment, and one that just I'm reminded of every time, and I'm like, man, that was a great joke. It still plays out for me. Well, another memory I was going to share was one that no one was here for outside of me. It was really early in our podcast. Like it was episode 8. You may need to fix your mic again, Gavin. So the it was episode 8, and they and for whatever reason, both James and Landen. Well, okay, it was all 3 of our faults. Now that I'm remembering, the day we were supposed to initially record, Landen, your cat had gotten out. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember putting posters up.
Yeah, so that was the first day we were supposed to record.
He's fine, by the way.
You found the cat, and he's fine.
Found him like 8 hours later. Yeah.
Yeah. It all ended up working out. Next day, James had a family issue he needed to take care of. So it's like, okay, we'll record the next day. The next day, I set alarms to wake up because I work third shift, and normally it used to be the show was recorded in the evening, so I would sleep in the morning, and so I set a bunch of alarms because I was like, all right, well, I need to wake up. My family, bless their hearts, they're trying to do a nice thing, and I love them for that. But they decided that I needed extra sleep and dismissed all of my alarms as they turned on.
Oh my gosh!
And
I think you've told me the story before.
And so I woke up 3 hours after we were supposed to record. So then I had to record on the day that the podcast was supposed to come out, and I was like, I'm not making this deadline. Again, it was episode 8. I was still trying to figure out how to edit a podcast. I would argue I still need to learn how to edit a podcast, but I'm much better at it now.
Much better.
Craig certainly helps me as
Thanks,
well.
Craig.
Thanks, Craig. He definitely takes care of. He automatically eliminates the white noise and automatically volume balances, so I no longer have to worry about tweaking the volume and running the audio file through a cleaner. He does all that for me.
I'm gonna be honest, I would have quit the show right fucking now if, when he goes, thanks, Craig, Craig's just like, you're welcome. Nope, I'm out.
You're welcome.
He's like, good luck, boys. Find another edgy boy. I'm sure you can find a third one.
So I was like, I'm not gonna make the deadline anyway. I might as well have fun with it. So I created this whole story that we've now since been playing along with, where Landen and James had gotten captured and held in another dimension, and then I found out I had a son that was also captured and held in another dimension, and I had to do the news by myself in order to free them. It was so dumb, but I loved I love doing shit like that, and so it was a phenomenal time for me.
Lately, it's just been me and Landon falling down wells.
Yeah.
All the time, man. All the time.
I mean, to be fair, again, Indiana, lots of wells.
Wells
just
everywhere.
wells.
Arguably more wells than Arkansas.
We have more wells than corn in Indiana.
And even then, sometimes the corn is just a well, disguising itself.
Mirage corn is actually a well.
Sometimes to get to the corn, you got to go through a well.
Yeah. I just imagine a well with hands holding up stalks of corn over itself.
We don't drive in Indiana. When we want to go somewhere, we just fucking we just jump down a well like it's a warp pipe from Mario.
Fucking Mario warp pipes, yep.
That's what happens. That's what plays every time I go into work. Fuck.
I did that because I was like, okay, shit. Kind of funny anytime someone misses something, they have this whole joke about them getting bit in the eye by a snake. And, they're from San Francisco. There are no snakes. It's like, what can I do? That'd be funny. And I decided, there's the joke, the old Lassie show. It's like, what is it? You found out? And so I played on that. It'd be great if we had a Lassie to do the barking and stuff, but
wasn't there one day where we said that Landon was stuck on top of a mountain?
Yeah.
Because he was climbing the mountain, trying to teach himself how to climb, so he wouldn't get stuck down at the bottom of wells anymore.
Because if Indiana is known for one thing outside of wells, it's mountains.
That's true.
Indiana, very mountainous. All these people that don't know very much about American geography are like, wow, Indiana is such a treacherous place. And it's like, no, it's the flattest place on earth until you go south. But that's because it's entering in Kentucky and all that. But yeah, that's a good moment to have creating a little inside joke for ourselves when we miss a podcast. Just going back to the production side. One thing I appreciate about this past year.
You guys keep going. I have to use the bathroom. So.
You're good. You are good. Back in the day, when we were doing this, like, honestly, I was in a place where I would never have actually done this. I was all talk. And it was through me doing self-development, getting into self-development, trying to make myself a better person, that I was like, you know what? I keep talking about doing this. I just need to do it. You know, because if maybe you would have taken charge if I didn't, but I was like, if I'm not taking charge, who's going to?
Fair point.
So I just took charge and went ahead and moved forward with it. And I was like, hey, you're either coming on the ship or you're staying on the mainland. Your choice. You're like, wait for me. So that's one thing I do appreciate. Let's see, how long have we been going? Ooh, we've been going for a minute. So I guess we can go ahead and transition to our goals for the podcast, as well as just goals in general that we have. So,
I'm back.
Did you scream? Was that a scream? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we did hear a scream.
I yelled out, "Can I get a oh yeah?" real loud, but I didn't know if it even came through.
No, it was just like.
So you just hear me screaming in the background.
Yeah.
Fell down the well. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. So yeah, we're transitioning to our goals for this podcast, as well as for the just for ourselves for the next year. Because I just brought up, that this podcast ended up being part of my self-development journey, and just doing what I talk about doing instead of just talking, being all talk. So with that being said, part of self-development is setting goals for yourself, and so that's what we're going to do, and we'll do that for the podcast too, since, this is what we do together.
Okay, all right. Whew, personal goals, well, main part for me is start to get a better routine in life, and a better routine in life, I can be more accountable and show up more accountably. So that's one goal. I'd like to just be able to keep my mind on track and set goals. And actually, I know this is about setting goals, but I'd like to be able to set goals and actually accomplish those goals. Is a goal of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I got a lot of ADHD problems, but I'm seeing a doctor here soon, and hopefully that'll help me in the future as far as setting goals and getting to the goals. But other goals that I can think of right now, I also would like to eventually be able to potentially switch to camera as well. Getting your face out there is always good.
Yeah.
What else? Be able to handle life stress better, so I can handle video game stress better. I'm excited for next year, so I would also like to be able to possibly do more special, dedicated content on our podcast towards certain games. So that'd be a goal of mine. I would maybe have like special segments dedicated to certain games that I'm excited for.
Yeah. I mean, I'm down for that too. As I mentioned before, one of my biggest influences as far as gaming, just gaming content in general was the old G4 XPlay. They would just, it'd be like there was one episode there was a lot of retro remakes coming out,
right?
And so they decided to do a whole ass parody of the Breakfast Club while they were reviewing the games. Like, they reviewed several games, but it was Kevin Pereira was like the jock from Breakfast Club. Adam Sessler was the weird kid. Morgan Webb was the pretty one, and I'm drawing a blank on who they had as the goth / weird girl. How Breakfast Club has those, stereotypes or whatever. But yeah, they just did a whole ass Breakfast Club parody while reviewing these retro games, and at the very end they all take cyanide pills. It was a great twist on
I love how I was just blank space. I don't know what Land is doing, but I was just blank minded for a second, and so Dean's laughing, and then said cyanide pills, and it's just silence.
It was silence.
Awkward silence for the W.
It's not that it wasn't funny. It's just my mind just fucking shut off, and it's like, we're not feeling right now. It's like, okay.
That's also, I know other things do this, but it's another goal I'd like to have for us is that whenever, sometimes people pause to let the other person talk, and the other people might also pause to let the people talk. So it's just like this long dramatic pause, waiting for someone to talk. We could all consciously get used to knowing that and just seeing how long we go without laughing or saying something.
I know exactly the joke you're talking about.
Yeah,
and it is one of my favorite things that
I don't know how many times I'll be listening to a podcast like, what the fuck is happening? Is my headset dead? Is my phone did pause?
And it's
my phone is still just going, and then I get laughter. So I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, every time they get me every time because I know they do it, but at the same time, I don't want to take the risk of just going hours without the podcast playing and just
we all put our headsets down and walk away.
Yeah.
Come back half hour later. And there's I think, personally, when it comes to the podcast, I personally want to get better at not straying away with something completely fucking random. Because I have ADHD really bad, and so it's not the fact that I'm being a dick and trying to interrupt from other things. It's just I have this thing where it's it'll suddenly pop in my head, and my main instinct is I need to say this now, or I'm gonna forget it.
I too have that problem, and that's something we learn over time. More podcasting we do, the better. We're learning how to not interrupt each other. Anytime we do interrupt each other, it's never a big deal. At least I don't get offended. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
But I know that it can be hard not being in person and trying to not cut each other off, or be able to use emotions or facial expressions or hand expressions to show each other hey, I want to say something next about what you're saying. You know what I mean? Being able to pick up on key interactions through digital camera or audio is limited. So we learn over time, and I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean. It can be tough to keep I know what he just said, and I have something to say about that, and your brain's say it right now.
Yeah, and again, I haven't been on the podcast that long, and I've skipped quite a few episodes, which is more of just the fact that I'm wearing my body down at work and too tired to do the episodes most of the time. But so I think that's just going to come with me being on the podcast more often and over a longer period of time. Because hearing you two interact, it's way more fluid than when I interject.
Why? Thank you.
But I will say I do plan, if I get into this other apartment, I do plan on making the living room maybe a place we can all meet up and do it in person, because I will have no use for that living room because I live by myself.
Yeah.
And I figured it'd be a nice space for us to be able to because I know Dean was talking about turning a space into like at one point, but I also don't want to like. I also kind of like, which I'm cool with if you still want to do that, but like I also don't want to take up room in your house that you could be using for something.
Yeah.
If I had room in my own place where I'm not going to use it anyways.
I mean, I'm open to that. I will say, knowing the apartments you're talking about, that living room is a big area for us to use. Lighting, a little bit of an issue. I do have the key lights now, but
well, I mean, even I can like pitch in with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, think with it, like, because if it's a bigger area, like we could like decorate it with shit that's like, you know, personal to extra, you know, with little inside joke memorabilia type shit, like, you know, like make it like a studio in a way.
Yeah.
But that's if you're down for that, and if I can even get into these apartments. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm down. Like I said, I'm already familiar with the space. It would just, like I said, be working out some of the lighting issues. Because even then, like, at least where I used to live in those apartments, where I lived, there was plenty of sunshine, but the way that the windows were designed, there was kind of a weird shadow effect and stuff. So, you know, because you don't want to put it against the windows because
right,
that would be even worse than having that weird shadow effect. But
well, like at the same time, I was like I've mentioned before, I was a scare actor, but I was also a theater kid.
Yeah.
And like I was like, I wouldn't say I was necessarily a theater kid. I was never in theater, but I helped out with like stage building, and when it came to the haunted houses I worked at, I helped out with, you know, setting up the haunted house and making the atmosphere right. And so I know how to like fuck around with lighting and tweaking, you know, backgrounds and shadowing and all that stuff fairly well just from my experience as a teenager. So
yeah.
And like I'm very good at camera angles. You can ask Mills. Mills always gets jealous of because Mills always talks shit about how he's like, why can you take good pictures but I can't? Even the picture that I took of him like when I went over to his house, I just reached my phone out and took a picture of him, and it still came out at a really good angle.
Yeah.
He's like, this is bullshit. So like, I'm good at production, or not production. What's the term? Is it production?
Yeah,
counts as production. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you know what I'm talking about, like, you know, with like a camera crew or like, you know, a stage, like you know, all that. I'm good at that. I'm not all that great at the performance aspect of things, which again comes with just have to get used to it over time.
Yeah.
But if it ever comes down to where we can do an in-person studio and such like that, like I would know what I'm doing when it comes to, you know, setting things up and where they need to go and lighting and all that such.
Yeah. So.
And you're good at editing, so if you're getting better at editing, so like, if anything needs to be edited for whatever reason, you can always edit.
Yeah.
And if I'm good at the production side of it, that's less that you would have to edit.
Yeah.
And Landon's really good at making a stage presence.
I am.
But I think out of like out of all of us, you're probably the best when it comes to like the quote unquote performance of the show.
Yeah.
Performance. Okay. I don't know exactly how to take that. I'm not taking it negatively.
I will
say
I know because I've asked him a couple times about like doing like fancy things, and he's not opposed, but I do know performance is something that he's a little shy about doing, like actual like, you know, not
as much as content I make, I am very picky about what I put myself into.
Yeah, it's like I don't necessarily mean like performing, but like, what's a good analogy or comparison? Like, say if we were all a film crew.
Yeah.
Dean would be the director. I would be the cameraman and the people that, like, you know, make the stage what it is, and you're the actor, the face of what's going on.
Yeah.
out of all of us. Because I will say, when I'm listening to the podcast myself, like I hear Dean, but I don't really comprehend what he says half the time. Like, because I'll usually put it on when I'm doing something else, so my brain doesn't catch it.
Thanks, buddy.
All the time. But every single, I'm sorry, but it's true. But like anytime you talk during the podcast, my brain immediately snaps to the podcast.
We're still talking about me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, damn.
Which coming from somebody with ADHD and can't pay attention very well is a good thing. Like you catch my attention immediately anytime you talk on the podcast and I'm listening to it.
Well, I appreciate all of that sentiments. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, I do. For all my joking, I do appreciate your presence on the podcast as well. I know how uncomfortable the word performance was to you, so I'll say presence.
I'll take presence. I like that one. My presence is liked and is likable. Hell yeah.
Yeah. If I were to put a face to the podcast, like I would still put Dean's face in there, but you'd be like the front and center.
I don't know. I think Matthew would be the front and center, wouldn't he?
Who?
Matthew.
Oh, your son?
Yeah, my son. That introduces the podcast every single episode.
I totally forgot about all that. I totally forgot about that. Matthew is the mascot. Matthew could be.
True, that's fair.
The animated.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you get where I'm getting at.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. Yeah. So for me, and my goals for this podcast, yeah, I absolutely, like you two have expressed, I'd love to move it to a video format. I think, audio podcasts definitely are still very big, but podcasts are starting to move to both audio and video. And on top of that, I just think video games in general are a very visual medium, so it would help to have that visual aspect of it. And yeah, so I'd love to actually transition to that. And like I said, I have plans on, incorporating this whole big epic into that, which I actually talked about last week on editorials, which you can find on patreon.com/thebriefingroom at the silver level. But yeah, no, I want to, obviously improve this podcast as well, but I do have some ideas for other podcasts now that I've kind of dipped my toes into the water. And so I'd like to look into doing that at some point.
That sounds dope.
And I'll also just being more consistent. As I mentioned before, early on, it was hard for me to be consistent because I was still trying to learn how to edit an audio podcast. And then as soon as I started hitting my stride, my computer shit the bed. And I'm back on stride and my computer's not shitting the bed. But this has been one rough November, December for me on a personal level. And so that's kind of affected things as well. But I'm hoping to be more consistent at putting it out on time, as well as just putting out, videos in general on my YouTube channels, as well as, I started doing the TikToks and then I dropped off of them. I'm going to be picking them back up as well, but it's just kind of like you mentioned, Landen. I just need to get back to a consistent schedule in general, and then start, working on improving from there. And that's why I actually bought a planner and a calendar as well. But yeah, I just I would love to see this podcast have more success. I am all about entertaining people, and I know, as Gavin mentioned, this one I'm more in the host seat, so I can't do as much with the jokes and the fun, because I gotta also keep the podcast on track. But I do love doing the entertaining part of it, and if I ever could make money doing this, I would love to, but that's not why I do it. I just love doing it.
I feel like the best way to describe that is if I could just have my living be based off of just doing this because it's what I love.
Yeah,
that would be, that'd be ideal. That'd be an ideal living situation, a good mental health living situation.
Yeah. So
It's got really wholesome at the end.
it did.
Yeah, it did.
And I like
Yeah,
that.
good. That's good.
like
That's
that.
good.
And yeah, I liked that too. And if you liked this podcast, or even if you didn't like the podcast, be sure to do
Good
all of the things, like hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and hitting the bell on or at the YouTube. I'm not used to that. At the XofPlays on YouTube, or giving it a high rating on whatever podcast service you use, so you can find like-minded people. Be sure to tell people about the show. Word of mouth is the best way to help us grow. And I brought it up before, but on patreon.com/thebriefingroom, you can financially support the show and get cool rewards as well. That's all from us. Take care.
You straight landed that transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,